meeting of the Kingston Select Board. Please rise and join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have no appointments this evening scheduled, and I'll open the meeting up for public comment number 1, if there's any initially. No, then we'll go right into committee liaison reports. Mr. Bakey, I'll start with you tonight.
Just have a couple things to report. As far as the police department goes, they're dealing with some issues on some outstanding contract payments with Saddle Up Saloon.
Okay.
But after looking into it more thoroughly, there seems to be a mix-up on some paperwork. So they'll be meeting tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock to take care of that all.
Okay.
So that it kind of came across like big issues, but it doesn't appear to be that bad now. So they're going to deal with that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. And as far as the building department, they are having an issue. I think Pedro will be up here, speak with the board at some point. He's having an issue down on Hunt Road with the pallet factory.
Oh, okay.
And that needs to be addressed, and he's done some research today. I think he went over to the courthouse to get some information on his action, what he has to do.
Okay.
Just
procedurally?
Procedure, yes. And he just obtained that information, but he's going to come to us directly before anything goes further.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
All right. I have none. You have nothing? Okay. We have the warrant articles from the ZBA, from the planning board. I don't have anything else to report. Mr. Glenn?
2 quick things. One, we have, with regard to the Energy Committee, we have received a selection of references to check. The board discussed wanting to check with other towns, both ones that, some that had joined and others that had joined and then withdrawn. So we have some names and contact information. Is that something that you would like the chair of the Energy Committee to do, or is that something the Select Board would do? And if so, I would probably do it. Unless you want to assign it to somebody else, and that's fine with me.
Well, I did ask, actually Chuck Margosian volunteered to do the 3 that had withdrawn. And so I think I had sent you a copy of his preliminary report today.
I did not see it.
Okay, I would have sent it this afternoon.
I had that further down in the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, but that was just on those 3.
Okay.
So, but I have no objection you checking out some of the other ones that Rick had listed. That came from you, right, Rick? Yeah.
Well, it came from Rick, but it was, I believe, passed on to us by Henry Herndon at, yeah.
And you had 4 names in that, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have any objection unless anyone else does, or if you want some help, I'll be happy to help, but.
I thought what I would.
There's only the 4, right?
Yeah, I thought since we have email addresses on them,
yeah.
I thought that I would draft an email with specific questions, and so that they would all be answering the same question.
Okay.
And let the responses come back that way, and then if we need to converse with them, we can do that. But
okay.
At least we'll have some response from them in writing, presumably all answering the same questions. That way we can compare apples to apples a bit.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Nope.
Okay, so I will do that. And with regard, I'm going to do HDC since I was there, unless you'd rather do it. Unless you'd rather do it.
You were there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I sat in for Lori as the rep to the HDC at the meeting this past week, and I'm pleased to report that the Historic District Commission approved the certificate for the seminary project. The overall layout and design, as well as the initial 4 homes to be placed, 3 along Main Street and 1 on Church Street. There are 4 there. There are 9 additional ones that will be built on the interior of the property. And with the condition that as the developer gets ready to get permits for each of the homes,
Yep.
they would have to come to the HDC to get final approval on any final tweaks to the designs.
Exterior.
So the exterior, right, the exterior, the
Right.
trim detail and that sort of thing. And that includes that's for all 13 of the homes. And the project also includes the full restoration of the seminary building, maintaining the complete building, the ironwork at the top, the windows. There'll be new front doors put in. They are going to remove the fire escape, so that'll be gone. And there will be 12 apartments in that building. And all the septic and water will be on site. They won't be going off site for any of that. They will be maintaining and repairing and painting all of the old fencing, the granite posts and the ironwork. They're going to clean the granite, and then they're going to paint all the metal, the black. They're going to retain the arch. So the designs that we saw and the renderings that were presented look very nice. So now the next step is for the project to go to the planning board, so you'll be seeing it as a site plan. But they have HDC approval at this point.
Excellent.
So,
That's a great step forward.
Yep.
That's it. Okay, thank you. And Laurie?
The only thing I have is about the solid waste and recycling. 2 of the items are on the agenda, so I'll wait for those.
Okay.
The one that I do want to say is that we're going to have, the collection center will accept Christmas trees for the weekends that were open in January. So that would be the 4th and the 18th, minus the decorations and the tinsel and things like that.
Oh, you're no funny.
I know, right? So, when we're open, we'll accept that. As a reminder, if the plows are out on the roads, the collection center is closed because we have DPW workers that work at the collection center and we need to make sure the roads are safe. Other than that, we will be there.
What did you say about the roads being closed?
The collection center will be closed if the plows are out on the roads.
Oh, I see.
Yep,
I
yep. So, snow or ice or whatever, clearly it's a hazard. We wouldn't want people driving. And so the collection center would be closed. Yeah, and the other 2 items we'll discuss when we get to old business. Thanks.
Very good. All right, then we'll proceed on to unfinished business. We have the state land lease decision to make. I trust you all had an opportunity to review it. Any comments?
My only comment is that the question that came up at our last meeting that we wanted to check, and so that everyone was comfortable with it, was with regard to the opportunity for us to get out of this lease if we wanted to or needed to. And I believe that is clause number 9, where it says that the state may terminate the lease for cause at any time if the town fails to comply, et cetera, et cetera. And then the state and the town may each terminate this lease without cause by providing the other party with notice of termination at least 90 days before effective date of termination. So I think that that question has been answered, and so I would make a motion that that the select board proceed with signing this lease for that for the land at what's the address?
27 Main Street.
27 Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you for the sign, gentlemen. 27 Main Street, we have a sign for 27 Main Street.
Oh,
There is a sign up
Yeah.
there.
oh, nice.
Thank you, Solid Waste Committee. And Chuck seconded. Discussion. I was one of the ones that had objected to it because of the inability for the town to get out of the lease, but that is not the case. We had the same opportunity for 90-day notice of vacating the property. We have to take all our equipment and stuff off of it. If for some reason we don't get it off the property within the 90 days, we're still liable to remove it thereafter. So that was the other stipulation. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries, then I'll sign it accordingly. Okay, Okay, item next, the job description on the DPW department head, and we did revise the title. And I know you have copies. It's also Director of Highway Buildings and Grounds, so we should change that on the job description as well. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it. Are we all set to post it so that we can move forward?
Just to clarify, we didn't make any changes except the title, correct?
That's
So
correct.
it's the same.
I think there might be one more thing. I think MS4 was inserted in there.
Oh, yes.
On the second page, it's right there.
Yeah.
So it has been added.
It has been
And
added.
yeah, we moved that at the last meeting.
Correct, I do remember that.
Yeah.
So I just make sure that was added on. Okay.
The only thing that I noticed, Paula, for correction, iWorks is little I, WORQS, instead of phonetically works, so. Thank you.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, all those in favor of posting the director's position availability, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, do we have a deadline? At least 60 days, I would assume.
Or do you want to do it open until filled?
Oh, open till filled? Or you want to open it for 60 days?
I think we should open until 60 days. I mean, open until filled, so when is the decision it's gonna be filled?
Well, we should
When we
make
say
it,
open till filled,
Well, the only thing that does for you is that if you happen to get a really good candidate and you want to act on it and not lose that candidate, it gives you the opportunity to jump on it as opposed to waiting for a full, whatever, 60 days or 45 days. That's the only benefit to doing it that way. But we have a person in that spot committed to it until February 1st.
correct.
So, I mean, that's just a little over 30 days out. I mean, if you wanted to, we could make it to the end of January?
yeah.
January 31?
January 31 it
January
is.
31.
Yeah, I go with that.
Okay.
Okay, all in agreement on that?
Yep.
Item next is the warrant articles for review and discussion. Susan, the number one, you need to check with Tammy. I touched base with her tonight, and she said she normally talks to you, but the planning board, she believes there are two members, not one position.
Yeah, we usually get together on that.
Yeah, and I didn't yet, I did check my list. And I was
Yeah,
gonna
if you
talk
could
to
just
Robin
follow up
tomorrow,
with-
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yes, that would be great.
My biggest confusion is the budget committee, as always, because there's always so many. A lot of them were one-year appointments, and I don't know.
Correct. And
what's
I
going
think
on?
the same case exists on the planning board. There are two individuals.
Okay.
One appointment was not filled in for the remainder of the year. Okay, and the votes, I believe, were from last year, correct, Susan?
Yeah,
No,
Well, it
votes.
all the votes must be from last year because we haven't, yeah, right.
Yeah, I just left
We
them
haven't
there.
acted on any of
For
it.
We have
form.
not acted on it yet, and the deadline's not in yet anyways.
unless somebody has submitted an official warrant article from the,
If you had any petition vote on it,
I know one is coming because they came and asked me about the form.
is there any
But-
request from our own department yet for a warrant article? You haven't seen Graham's or?
Yeah, they're in here,
Here?
yeah.
you just have to disregard the vote numbers because no one's voted on anything.
Yeah, I just copied the form so that it's ready when we have those in there. But anything in red doesn't count.
But yeah, the budget numbers, them and
Right, that's not right.
Graham did, he had some wording changes on one of his. I've got that in red. I wasn't sure if that was final. He was going to be talking to Paula about wording, and we don't have the numbers for the salaries and benefits.
Did we set this on to Paula as well, so she has the draft?
I think she's got the whole thing. I know
Yeah,
she,
you got it?
yep.
Okay, good. I don't see any action item tonight, but this is the way to keep you informed of what's come through. Okay. Curbside recycling, warrant article. designated to discontinue, and I don't think we need to, but do our way in.
So at the meeting, right, we discussed that, and we want to do a warrant article on opening a revolving fund with a zero amount. So we don't want to ask the taxpayers for any money to start the revolving fund. So I don't know how that needs to be worded,
Okay.
because it would be zero tax impact, but.
I can find some wording for that and put it on for,
Right, and that's what the committee wants to do, right? So clearly we have to discuss that, but that's what the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee talked about, that we would like to do the revolving fund with no seed money.
Can you open an account without any money?
Yes, Paul is saying yes. Because that was the intent, right? So all of the special events that we're doing throughout the year would then be put into the revolving fund.
It's similar to the ambulance revolving, not the ambulance, the fire detail revolving fund we did last year. We put it to the voters and they approved it, so all the details that the fire department does, that money will go into that account.
Right.
So it'll be similar, so it's approving to have a revolving fund for recycling, whatever we call it. And then when or if they get money for an event or whatever, that would go in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So you're not opening up the bank account, it would be open once we get money.
okay. But we're not voting on it tonight whether we approve it to put it on or not,
Okay,
because we haven't got it yet.
yeah.
So,
do you want me to bring forward wording for next time, or are you gonna?
Yeah, you and I can work on
Yeah.
that and figure that out. So that was the one issue, but the other one was, on the agenda was a warrant article needed to discontinue curbside recycling.
About that, we don't.
And we don't need it, right?
don't need it.
Right. Okay, so it's just a revolving fund. Awesome.
Okay, so I'll just, yeah, we won't have that in
Yep.
at all.
Okay, great.
The other question for you, Article 17, that's from last year, right?
yes.
2 years ago? Acquisition, 100,000 for a purpose of acquiring land for future use as drinking water.
That's back in because it was not, do we still want that, Glenn? Remember,
Well-
because it lapsed.
Yeah, it lapsed, and there was talk about if we wanted to reinstate it, we'd have to put it back on the warrant, but the property for which that was designated is really not available
for sale.
anymore.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that there's even a need to have it in here.
I would agree
Okay,
with that.
take it out.
Take it out.
Then the Article 18, what is,
That's another old one, isn't it?
No, that came from Marissa, I believe.
well,
It was in my packet, and I asked her about it.
the question I would have on that is that most of the outside groups that we support have been in the budget for 3 years, or if they're new, like the new one coming in, has to go to a warrant article.
Okay.
So I don't know what.
Petition warrant.
Petition warrant.
I'll
article. So
ask
that's why
about
I
it.
was-
Put it in.
We're not sponsoring that, I don't think.
Yeah, I had it in my folder. I wasn't sure where it came from, so I asked her, and so I'll find out what's
Maybe
going
she
on.
knows something different, I don't know.
Yeah.
Normally, these.
Yeah, it is unusual for it to happen like that, but that came to me fully formed.
Because it's not an automatic endorsement by the board. It has to be from the petition, by petition by the community. And if it passes for 3 consecutive years, then it becomes a budget item. Okay.
But they would have to.
Correct,
They have to come in and petition for it.
correct.
Okay.
They sent a letter requesting
Who's they?
The Seacoast Mental Health.
mental health, so she brought it up during the budget meeting, and she was told we have to do a warrant article. Because we used to,
But the select board doesn't have to do a
no,
warrant.
but that's not necessarily a select board warrant article, but it has to go to warrant article,
Right.
because they sent a letter requesting the funds.
Okay, and they have to do that for 3 consecutive years before it becomes an automatic budget item.
Yes, because if I remember correctly, this one it expired.
Okay,
Like, they used to be, and then we weren't.
okay.
So they sent a letter, but they still have to come in and do
They still have to do a petition article, yeah.
All right, okay.
Oh, it has to be a
All that
petition.
letter does
Okay.
is lets us know they're interested in doing that, which is great.
Yeah.
But they still have to go with the
Okay.
signatures and so forth. Okay, anything else, Mr. Hart? Glad you're reading it. All right. Research on community power. We're going to take care of that, right? Okay. New business. Moving right along, 2025 executive budget review and discussion. I know we reviewed it last Wednesday. Is there further discussion on the executive budget? Mr. Hart? Anybody else?
Guessing that it's all updated 100% from what we had in the conversation for, right? I don't have the answer yet. I'm a little concerned that the executive part of it is up 10%. And I don't know, we had discussions and we had everything explained, so there isn't an issue there. I don't know if there's any room, and I haven't looked at it closely, to make any cuts there, but that's a big number. And I know a lot of it is computer orientated and service contracts and all that kind of stuff, and some of it may not be able to, do much with, but I think, myself, I think it needs to be looked at a little bit closer from all eyes, and if we can't, and if that's what it is, then that's what it is. The rest of the items, I mean, the personnel information is, in line there. There doesn't seem to be any big issues there. Liabilities and deductibles, we don't have any choice, as we know. Cable channel, social media salaries, we've increased that because of the people and the possibility of a new person coming in. Again, it's most of those aren't really any big issues. I think it's 10% there. The where is the okay, there it is. And the health insurance and that, Paul, are those still estimated? All these numbers are exact. Nice, okay. Which looks good compared to what it was last year on the health insurance and the dental insurance. A lot of that has come down. So again, myself, I'm concerned with a 10% increase in our part of the budget.
But the overall budget is not up 10%, correct?
Well, the overall budget, then we have to, Paula will correct me on the math, but because of certain grant items, large dollar item grant items that have to be put in and taken out because we get the revenue, the total budget is 12%, but reality is it's 3%. If you take out, not even 3%. Okay, if we take out the grant money, the 800, that type of thing, which everybody's got to understand when we start to get more into the budget and look at this, that yes, it's there, but it shows up on the revenue side. So the actuality is that it is, well, it was 3%, whatever you've got now, Paula, is.
Yeah, if we were to take out, for instance, the bridge grant for $1 million, we would only be up, I can't remember off the top of my head, it's like almost 3%.
Yeah.
2.9%, let's say that, because, okay.
So, I mean, that's
We have $1
again,
million bridge grant in here that we
Yes.
need authorization to expend.
Yes,
And
and
in order
$1
to
million is in revenue also.
Okay.
so that we, as the
In
board
and
and the
out.
people that are here have to understand that, and that's really what we've got to promote, because reality, that's what the budget is this year, so, which is excellent as compared to
The
years
last
gone
couple,
by.
last
Yep,
2 years.
Yep.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, well, we're presenting, the board, Chuck is presenting on behalf of the board on Wednesday night to the budget committee. You should probably post it, some of us would be there, Susan, so that we're not in violation.
It's already posted as a
Oh,
meeting.
it is? Okay, then there we go. Okay, thank you. Meeting on December 23rd. I don't believe we'll have a quorum on the 23rd, so I'd like to skip the 23rd and then have our next meeting and final meeting of the year on the 30th, which would be a department head meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, followed by an encumbrance and anything else that might come before us.
That would be the 30th.
The 30th in the morning at 9 a.m. We could start earlier if you so chose. It's up to you all.
Are we getting in, discussion for Paula, I guess, are we getting in the things that we think that we need to go, the items that we need to be encumbering? Have we started a list on that, Paula, or have you got?
I haven't gotten anything. I have one.
Okay, I just again, we don't want it to
Well, by
be the last minute surprise that somebody needs 10 grand for something, you know, so.
I gave each department a deadline.
oh, okay. Give each-
Okay,
All right, for those at home, the finance director has notified each department head that he or she needs to get a number in if there's to be any encumbrances on the 30th. And that meeting will take place after the board meeting, department head meeting on the 30th. Okay, public comment number 2. Any public comment number 2? Mr. Margosian, come on down. Have a seat to our left here.
Chuck Margosian, 8 White Drive. The last time I was with the board, I talked about the urgency of addressing the next contract for our waste pickup and recycling. There are some immediate things that need to also be addressed beside the schedule. We had an immediate challenge for the collection center and the pending contract of the RFQ. Firstly, my operational assessment, and this is my personal assessment of working with the town on this for the last 2 years, of where the town stands with respect to the complex issues leading to the next contract are the decisions required to get to the next contract are highly interdependent. They are as follows: the disposition and fully committed implementation of the collection center or the commitment to continue with curbside recycling. If the collection center is fully committed to, then the town must support and fund all that is necessary to make it successful. If fully committed to, then let's prepare for issuing the RFQ for MSW only. If the decision is not to fully commit to the collection center, then we commit to either continuing with curbside recycling or having residents put their recycling into MSW, municipal solid waste. If the latter is adopted, then town residents will take on the expense of either the extreme cost of curbside recycling or the additional tonnage cost of MSW. There are some interdependent key issues. The disposition of the collection center has to be determined before the RFQ can be released, as the RFQ specifies what the next contractor will be responsible for picking up and the estimated tonnage. While the select board has initially voted to discontinue curbside recycling, I believe that's the case, right? Curbside recycling. In the next contract, it still has to decide how to dispose of recyclables. That means either a successful collection center or continuing with increasingly expensive curbside pickup. It's my assessment that a focused approach is necessary to solving this. I believe that given all the tasks, the challenges ahead, that take charge leadership is necessary to get accurate cost evaluation and planning in time to determine whether the collection center can be operationally and financially viable for the next contract period. This requirement will require, and this is my opinion, a dedicated project lead with authority to make operational and financial decisions, who can take the collection center helm before the RFQ is released so that the appropriate decisions can be made. This is a full-time position with enormous commitment and will entail a tremendous amount of research with the NRRA, state organizations, cost analyses, and facility planning. So why is a dedicated project lead necessary? Growing the collection center to replace curbside recycling is a full-time effort from an individual experienced in collection center, transfer station operations, and regulatory governance. For over a year, the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee volunteers have been doing legion work by dedicating their personal time to help get the collection center off the ground. But they are only an advisory function with no authority to make strategic, operational, and financial planning or commitments to develop the collection center to the point where it can take on the town's required recycling operation. As part-time volunteers, they also do not have the time nor the experience to conduct the required research and extensive planning that would be required. To meet the projected contract schedule, the RFQ has to be released by early 2026, which doesn't leave much time to determine whether the collection center can be fully operational, supported by sufficient residential participation to make it viable. So there's an impact of a last-minute decision here. If there is no project lead function and the collection center is projected not to be viable within the required time frame, then a further decision will have to be made to either continue curbside recycling or dispose of recycling in municipal solid waste. This decision only offers the advantage of competitive bidding, not a cost reduction to the town. As a resident, I want to highlight the perceived impact of the town's decision or indecision on me. As with many residents, my property tax bill has increased about 43% over the last 3 years, and it is obvious that if immediate direct action isn't taken to resolve the overall waste contract issues, the light at the end of this tunnel is a trash disposal contract train wreck headed directly for the town of Kingston's property tax base. To further illustrate my point as a tax-paying resident, next to our school financial obligation, the current waste recycling contract is the town's single largest contract expense, with a projected cost through 2027, which is the end of the current contract, of $3,836,287.51. Divide that into the number of households in the town, and this does not reflect potential increases resulting from the upcoming contract. So, concluding, there are critical decisions that require careful, thought-out actions. Unfortunately, calendars don't change. It is vital for the Select Board to resolve, commit, and follow through on these issues so that the RFQ can be issued for the benefit of the town.
Don't go yet.
I'm not going. I expect a lot of questions.
Right now, it costs us, if I'm correct, and I might be off a couple dollars, $86 per ton for trash pickup. And $137 for recycling pickup. If we blend the two, won't we be saving $46 per thousand on the pickup of the recyclables? Because everything goes into trash. I'm not leaving the collection center aside. If we did nothing with the collection center and just commingled our trash, recyclables potential or not, it would cost, still under the current contract, other than the escalator clause each year that there is one, it would cost us approximately $86 per ton. Now, it would cost us more per ton for trash versus recycling, but it's still substantially less for
Well,
trash.
as you said, under the current contract, we can't do that. Okay, it's
Okay,
only the
you're
next
right.
contract
You're right.
where we define in the RFQ, because we have to, in the RFQ, we give the potential bidders, the contractors, the history of our MSW waste, the weight, the tonnage. They're gonna calculate their cost to us projected on what we give them for tonnage for MSW, and then move from there. We don't, if we add the figures, the tonnage figures for MSW, I'm sorry, for recycling into that, okay, they can then add those numbers together and then come up with a figure for total collection tonnage, for both of those categories. That gets a little bit complicated.
If they're combined.
If they're combined.
If the next contract requires us to combine.
And that's from a financial standpoint, only a dollar standpoint. There are some residents that may not like to do that because they want to recycle. But this again is purely financial. It is not ethically based. That's not what we're talking. We're talking dollars.
So you don't think we have a year to try out the collection center?
That would delay a year from releasing the RFQ. The RFQ has to state what the contractor is responsible for delivering to the town. It's either going to, as written now, it's either solely MSW.
Right, municipal solid waste for those at home.
Or if we decide we're going to go to a mixture of either curbside or a mixture of curbside and MSW, that needs to be clearly delineated in the contract. They have to know what to bid on.
And you said that time frame when we want a signed contract July of 26. So that means that's 18 months prior to execution. And so back that up, we're a few months, say February, March timeframe where we're releasing something with execution by July. That's what you had briefed last time.
If that's what the schedule said,
Yeah.
yes, that's where we are.
Right.
Okay.
But again, going back to the schedule itself, that's in a perfect world. That means no speed bumps, no snowstorms blocking decisions of meetings, no hassles with legal assessment. That means it flows straight through. It's sort of optimistic, but it's pretty realistic if we follow it. If we follow that schedule, we'll get there. We'll have the competitive bid, and we'll understand what we're asking the contractors to bid on.
And we still would have time to have a discussion with the bidders.
Absolutely necessary.
For them to question what we're asking for, whether or not that would be what they would be interested in bidding in and so forth, so that ideally we'd have a contract ready to go in 26, in June of 26, let's say.
No.
That's a whole year. No, it would be, we would have something ready to go like February, March of 27 for release.
No, next year's 25, I thought we had a year and a half.
We do.
The current contract ends at the end of 27.
That's correct, but when I hear Mr. Margosian saying that we really should have a contract in place by 26, the June of 26, that gives the vendor a year and a half.
I don't have the schedule in front of me here, so.
Yes, it's a year, June of 26 is a year and a half before
Yes.
the current contract
As the
would end.
contractor, as the requirement to order equipment, et cetera, is 18 months.
Right.
Then yes, that we back up
Right.
from that schedule.
So do you happen to recall then, based on all of this, when we would need to release an RFQ for this?
We would release the RFQ early 27.
No, early
25.
26.
26. We would release it 2 months prior to when we want, it depends on our timeline.
No, next year's 25.
Yes.
From what I remember, we have to have the RFQ by next June 1st.
It's 26, I'm sorry, it was 26.
No, 26, not 25, Ellie.
Yeah.
If we want to sign a contract in June of 26, we wouldn't release it till like February, March.
That's not what I'm referring to. We were talking about releasing the RFQ would be by June of 25, so that a year later,
Releasing
No, We wouldn't release it a year early.
I don't.
We're
you
not
have to
talking
give a
apples and
schedule here.
oranges,
I'd go
Mark.
by the schedule that
I don't have it in front of me. By
Okay.
releasing the RFQ means that we put out the bid.
I understand what it means, and I don't think we would do it a year early. I think we would do it 4 months early, and then have them come in. You don't generally release it a year early, because we would have to write terms that we can't account for a year early.
But Mr. Margosian is talking about the chosen vendor needing a lot of time to order equipment. And that then forces us,
And that's something we cannot alter.
That's the 18 months prior to
Right,
execution,
that's
which
correct.
is July of '26, because we don't execute until January 1st of '28.
correct,
That's 18 months. That's what they said. They need 18 months
right.
before the contract starts to order the appropriate equipment.
So a decision needing to be made on our part by that 18-month advance.
Correct.
That's right.
Choose a
Contractor
vendor
will
by
not-
that
They
time.
will
Yes.
not submit a bid, they will not order equipment, excuse me, unless they have a signed contract.
Of course,
Right,
of course.
And that needs to be done by June of '26.
Yes.
yeah. So it sounds like a lot of time, it's not. If you look at all the things that have to happen, all the pieces to this puzzle that have to get put into place, there's a lot of work by a lot of people, and I'm not sure that we have the people to do the project leadership on both the RFQ and on the leadership of developing a full-blown collection center. Those are both, in my opinion, the RFQ is a temporary requirement to get the thing out the door, get it signed, then, that gets done. Developing and costing and determining the validity or the financial viability, if you will, of the collection center is a lot of work.
Right, that's the area where you recommend that we have
That's
someone
what
that's
it is.
dedicated to
And again,
release that.
the RFQ cannot go out until we know what that picture is, or we don't know what we're asking for. And I've seen, there's a lot of work to pulling together a functioning transfer station collection facility. As
In
noted
your
here.
travels.
It's a lot of work. It's not a part-time job, in my opinion, in the time frame that we have to pull it off. And so,
That's
where
the
do we
sweet
get leadership to do that, to pull that together? Somebody that's dedicated to do all of those functions.
Is that you, Susan?
I'm turning this down, sorry.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
it almost comes down to, if you say that, well, we can't, nobody to pull a collection center to make it viable. If we have nobody to do that, then, what's the default, right? Then you go back to curbside. And either curbside, pick up individually, or curbside, melded with MSW.
Or
Lousy
curbside.
decision, right?
It's a very difficult decision.
It is.
And it can be very costly too. I mean, we might end up like Exeter with buying bags to put our recycling in or whatever. Or trash for that matter.
What we do know is we do not want to be in the same position we're in today with waste management.
That's correct.
We want viable, competitive bids so the town can choose the vendor, the provider that is the best price with the services provided.
Yeah, when I first came on the board 4 years ago, we were just coming into the decision-making on this solid waste management contract. And we were literally up against the wall, had no opportunity to have anyone else come in and bid. They wrote requests for a proposal, and they pretty much told us what we had to do and how much it was gonna cost.
We do not want to repeat that,
And
right?
we do not want to repeat that. And I have to give Kevin St. James some kudos because he tried to get another vendor to come in, but it was too late. They were not going to be able to bid. There wasn't enough time to order the equipment. They couldn't even begin to match anything that Waste Management had. And Waste Management's contract is signed, sealed, and delivered with at least a 5% increase every year for 5 years, so that over the 5 year of the contract, a 25% increase. Plus, Because if they're out of pocket any money, they're gonna bill the town accordingly. Great contract for them, lousy contract for us.
We do have, we're fortunate, and we have 4 potential contractors that want to bid on this.
Would they go either way, with or without
They
recycling?
can go either way. We have to tell them what we want them to do. We don't want to leave it, we want to tell them what the town needs. Because in order to make a competitive evaluation of the pricing, that is their compensation, they all have to be bidding on precisely the same thing with precisely the same numbers.
Right, apples and apples.
Yeah, right.
So have we got 6 months to make that decision, depending on what's happening at the collection center? And from what I hear from you, I hear no.
I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I would probably opt to say we probably have less time than that. There's just too much we don't know about full-blown collection center development. There's just too much we don't know. We've seen how much time it takes to get support or feedback from the state in terms of questions we've asked them to respond to us. And some of that there may be governance from either federal or state laws that who's ever pulling this together has to understand, so that we're in full compliance. There's a lot of moving parts.
Right. We haven't looked into maybe bringing our recycling somewhere else?
Pardon me?
Have we looked into bringing our recycling to another center, like Lee, for example? Is that an option for us?
Going to Lee, who seems to have a pretty going to a facility like Lee, who has been developing such a facility pretty successfully, it seems, over the last several years, and seeing how it's evolved and how long it's taken them to get there, sort of tells us we're not going to do this in 6 months or 12 months. But we should be able to make an assessment, a financial business decision, that we can grow it to be, or not grow it to be, financially viable for the town. We should have somebody that can spearhead that, do the math, do the investigation, and come back and make a recommendation of reality.
And that would be a project manager.
That, to me, would be a dedicated project person that has no other mission in life but to make this happen. Because it's not, like I said, it's not part-time. Going back to the schedule again, Mark just gave me a copy. The RFQ really needs to get reviewed and issued in April to May timeframe of 26. And if you take a look at the schedule from the point of reviewing the RFQ to the time when we've concluded the contractor meetings and making any adjustments that they require in the contract, that's only 3 months. That's not a lot of time for all of that to happen.
What do you mean 3 months?
Pardon
From
me?
when?
Between April of 26 and signing of a contract, no, I'm sorry, making a bid award in June of 26.
Okay.
Yeah. Then there's, the in-between stuff of having legal take a look at this.
Right.
And I don't know how quickly they turn things around, but it's yet another step.
We have not done that yet.
No, in fact, I mean, we can look at either doing that with the RFQ before we send it out to make sure we've got our, I's dotted and our T's crossed before we send it to the vendors, and then we do it again once it's completed by the contractors to make sure that it's Loctite. So that would be 2 steps just for the legal. And I don't know how long it takes to process, that, depending how busy they are, I guess.
Depends on the time of year, basically. Comments, questions from my colleagues? Mr. Compliment.
So I'd like to know if amongst your group of people, you have someone who will be willing to volunteer to do that work.
There's two positions required here. One is somebody needs to take the RFQ effort, which is getting that run through and getting that approved and everything. And then second is the second position is what we talked about here, is developing the collection center viability, or determining the collection center viability. I do not have anybody that I know of.
So the reason I ask the question is that we're right in the middle of budget time, and if we decide we need to then pay for somebody to do this, it's got to be in the budget.
Right.
And I don't believe we've accounted for any of that at this point.
We have not. The only thing we've done is
It's a tough decision, but if you look at what's at stake financially, it's huge. So the quality of the decision, the quality of the work that goes into making these determinations is critical. So expertise is required, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you're talking a multi-million-dollar contract, second highest bill other than the schools until they start.
Well, and true, but in looking forward to 2 years out, when it's going to be a more expensive, potentially
it's
contract.
going to go higher every year.
Because of inflation, et cetera, et cetera.
Every year.
Right, so the impact on us, tax-wise, the tax base, is horrendous.
Yeah, it's not going to get better.
So, and I don't think people mind spending the tax dollars if they think they're getting what the value of the tax dollars. But, for me, I don't want to be putting one more dollar into that tote in my tax, from my checkbook, than I have to. If I have competitive bids that say this vendor is going to save me $25 on my tax bill or whatever, $100, whatever it is, that's where I want people to be looking at. I do not want to be defaulting into another contract like we have now, which we have no recourse.
Right. Right.
I think a lot of us are talking in the same thing. We want to do the right thing for the town, to get the best option that we have available. Maybe we have different steps on how we see getting there. This has got to coalesce and it's got to get focused.
So,
it can't be fractionalized.
So a question I have for you. I agree with everything you said. But here we are, the 16th of December, and we have a budget that's got to be finalized. We don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what that position would entail in cost to the town to present that to the budget committee. That's something that's going to be done by next year, which is we need the budget for 26, 25 to work on this.
Right.
To get the homework, because even though it's not going to be due to March of 26, most of the work's going to be done in 25.
That's right.
We got to do the homework, right? So, as a budget item for the town of Kingston, how do you come up with that number? I mean, what are we looking at? I mean, who would you talk to?
Well, I think one of the ways to start getting there is you define the task. The task of developing a collection transfer station, there are probably job descriptions out there, or task descriptions that can be looked at and then applied to the needs of the town. And then from that you develop, a requirement. Also, we should pretty well determine what it is we want the collection center to be. We want it to take over either all or most of the recycling components that we're currently recycling. And that defines, well, are you going to have cardboard, you're going to have aluminum, you're going to have steel, you're going to have glass, et cetera, et cetera. So you begin to define what the elements of what a collection center is. In terms of the curbside requirements, there's the ancillary stuff of things like, the incentives like Christmas tree pickups or electronics disposal. Those are nice things that draw people into a collection center or transfer station. That's your participation.
But we're still committed with waste management for the paper, cardboard, aluminum, and tin, I believe. we have to still give them that waste. In the meantime, at the collection center, we rent dump trucks from them and then pay them to come and get it from us at the transfer station, right?
There's, as an example, you know, in talking about what the collection center, the next step for the collection center is, we talked about getting compactors for the cardboard and similar things, and maybe to compact the plastics or whatever. Well, that's a capital expense. That one line item is a capital expense to do that. Another way to look at that perhaps is to go to a town like Lee or some other town that already has that facility, that capability, working the deal with them where they get our cardboard with some financial exchange one way or the other as appropriate. They get to pick it up with their equipment, therefore reducing the impact on the immediate need to have a compactor. Maybe if we're successful, we grow to that. But you know, we could, let's prove the concept first. That's just one alternative.
But we'd be in violation of the waste management contract if we give them our cardboard for it.
That's our current contract.
Correct.
Moving forward, but developing that relationship in January of '28.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Okay,
Right.
that
You're
doesn't
ready.
mean we can't put deals in place soon to look at other
Right.
options.
Right.
As long as we don't violate the contract up to the end of '27.
Okay. Got it. So we could enter into deals that would take effect in January 1st of 2028.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure what those deals are. but
Correct, if any,
But
right.
given the fact that there is money in cardboard, there is money in aluminum, and given what we're paying currently for rental of these 30 cubic yard dumpsters, when you know you can buy one of those things used for $1,800 as a one-time write-off, right? Rather than paying the rent. I mean, those are types of trade-offs that they're fairly simple math, you know, for somebody to do. But that would be the job of a project leader, to take and roll all of this up and then present it and say, here's the big collection center. Positive and negative aspects.
Right.
And it's probably just my assessment, having watched the town of Wayland, Mass, and how it evolved. It's from a landfill to a transfer station. That evolution takes time. It does not happen overnight. You have to get the participation of the residents to make it viable. The participation, the numbers have to be there to get that stuff out of the totes and to get it to the collection center is an educational effort, right? So, and that just takes time because you have to change paradigms of how people think about it.
There's also going to be a percentage of the electorate who would choose to keep curbside and MSW the way it is, regardless of the cost, because it's so convenient.
Well,
so there is that, and we don't know what that mix might be.
Well, what it could mean, one option is that they do a private pickup of their recyclings.
Yeah.
Where we don't, it's not in the town expense.
Right.
If they don't want to go to the collection center, as some folks in Wayland did, is you pay to have it picked up.
Right.
You pay for that convenience.
Right.
The state's requirement does not say we have to provide recycling.
No.
The RSA
Solid
said we
waste.
provide a means of disposing of trash.
Right. I mean, there are still some towns in our immediate area that don't have any curbside pickup whatsoever. I mean, Epping, for instance, every resident has to physically go to the landfill or whatever site it is that they have.
There are probably some good models out there in the town, in the state, that we can look at. Again, if the resource of somebody, the project leader, investigating those and taking a look at what's working, the elements that are working, and meld that into the plan.
Another thing is, and I realize these are just posing questions, but we don't know what's going to happen to the commodities market in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. I mean, right now, there's good money in cardboard. 6 years from now, that could be very different.
Correct.
It's
The crapshoot.
like the
So,
Wall Street
so
casino.
basing,
It's
you know,
not-
basing a huge decision on a lot of unknowns is very, very hard.
It is. Those are financial variables, market variables that we have no control over.
We have no control over them, but they somehow have to be accounted for in whatever kind of model or plan you're going to put together.
That's correct. Absolutely. That's correct. And one of the things that the NRRA has offered us is that they have outlets, paying outlets for recyclables. So some of that pioneering can be done. That's why what we're paying them for an annual fee is probably very worthwhile. They've proven to us over the last year or so that they have very valuable information. They have connections, things that actually work in the state of New Hampshire. So again, that's a research. I mean, you have disjointed groups within the NRRA that have responsibility for researching and doing all this stuff. So the project leader, the Kingston project leader, if you will, goes and approaches and sits down with NRRA and said, okay, here are the issues I have. What solutions do you see, and what are the contacts? Again, it's a resource issue on our part to get that information.
Well,
It goes back to the question, what's it gonna cost to get a project like that?
Well, if we can build a job description out of it, then you go to industry and see what the going rates are for that position. There are people that do that. I don't know, I don't have any references myself, but we have to have a job description. We can develop that. The town can do that on its own.
And we have 2 days to get this onto the budget.
That's my point.
So,
Well, no, not in reality, we don't. We
No.
have up
As a
till
select
decision
board.
day to put
okay,
money in there if we want to.
We have a
so it
little
isn't-
more flexibility as the select board.
which would be when, Chuck?
Well, it's still not far off, and Stacy would yell at
Sometime in
us.
January?
Yeah, but Stacy will still slap our hands because we have to go to the budget committee still, even though it's after the fact.
January 8th, I think, is one of the dates. It can be changed on the floor, I mean, we can.
You're creating a new position and that's protocol.
What's that?
Not necessarily.
Not a part-time.
I think it would be a contracted thing, Paula, the way it's been described here.
Then you don't need a job description, so if it's contracted, then you would have to go out for.
Well, it would be at least
Well,
a scope
I
of
think-
work, a scope of work with certain requirements and certain capacity attached to it.
Yeah, you have to tell them what we want.
Of course,
Yeah.
Right.
of course.
The question would be, who's got the knowledge to be able to write something like that, Chuck? Write some kind of, unless you would pass it down to Mark, you know, then that would be.
I'm gonna volunteer.
I'm done being volunteer.
Okay. There are, you know, I think, you know, Phil has a lot of information because he's been through a lot of that. I have some information, having looked at other sites. So maybe we can come up with a scope of work type requirement. And I can't do it all. I'm willing to participate in helping.
Right, and it's getting something, as you say, put together, getting something out there, getting some feedback as to who does it, you know, what would be expected to be paid, what, you know, and again, it's not something we're gonna sign tomorrow, but if we've got the information coming in, if we do it, my opinion, if we do it before the budget finally closed and it was something that we wanted to do, at least we could shoot it in there. We can always put it in as a warrant article, we also have time for that. Or, again, depending on how much money it is, if we get it in there and we want to do it, we find the money in the budget to do it. I mean, there are multiple ways, you know, we're not talking $100,000 here, I don't guess. Well, then it isn't going to happen, but No, I don't know, I have no idea, man, I don't know.
I think initially you're looking at part-time. I don't see it a full-time position. It should be, but I don't see us expending the funds for a full-time.
Yeah, and
No, but
No, it's a stipend.
it's going to be a contract for a piece of work
Yes,
with a scope of work and a deliverable or deliverables at the end. And if it's going to be a private consultant who does this, they get big money. And for something this complex, it could very well be tens of thousands or more.
right. That's very true.
the other thing to take into consideration is, this is that gets us to the decision, the business decision for the collection center. If the collection center is successful, let's hope it is, if it's successful, there's an ongoing effort to manage that. It's,
Right.
and I've watched, you know, in the town of Wayland, and Mark has watched Lee, that is a full-time job because of the elements of the job, because they're changing all the time.
And they don't have it twice a month. They have it 5 days a week or 3 days.
Well,
or whatever.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
that can be determined as to what the frequency of pickups is. But my point is that on an ongoing, if you have a successful transfer station, a collection center, after you develop it and get it off the ground, the management doesn't roll up its suitcase and say, "I'll see you later," because it's continually going to be challenged given the environment we have today, the environmental requirement, the marketing requirements. Somebody's got to manage that.
It's
So,
still a business.
I still think.
It's a business.
I think you're looking at numbers that.
Of what?
You're hiring managers, you're gonna have to employees work for the manager, your days of the volunteers, I appreciate you guys going down there on a Saturday and taking the recycling out of people's cars, but that's a pipe dream, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna need employees, you're gonna need the town of people down there that are getting paid overtime, you're gonna have a cost now of a director of trash that's gonna have to oversee the whole project, so we're coming in another whole balloon of cost. We're
I
saving
fully
here, but we're
agree,
paying here.
but that's
his
the
point.
first mission of
Yeah.
that person, that project leader, is to take a look at all of these elements.
Yeah.
Both the governance issues, the personnel issues, the equipment issues, the land issues, all of that. You can see how complex it is. Okay, and you're right, it's on an ongoing basis, it's not a bunch of volunteers. They do great work, and they like doing it, and it's great, but it becomes a business, and you have to look at it that way. Even if the profitability turns out to be a small financial loss, but it's reducing the cost of curbside recycling sufficiently, where it's a benefit to the town.
Correct.
You have to look at what the net benefit is.
But there's also the possibility, I suspect, that if someone were to do this full analysis and what it would be costing at whatever year number in the future to run a full collection center, weighing that off against curbside recycling and MSW.
That's part of the business decision,
Well,
absolutely.
and that's the kind of information that we would need to have.
That's, once the person determined, we get a viability forecast as to the collection center, then you get into it, then you gotta also forecast what years, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth are beginning to look like, so that the budget committee and your appropriation of funds can address that. So we're not caught blindsided.
Right.
We have to understand what that is.
Right. And if we're sitting up here trying to make just a strictly dollars and cents, not an ethical decision on recycling, we need to know that, because if it is just strictly dollars and cents, if it's in the long run cheaper for us just to continue doing what we're doing, then maybe that's the decision.
But we don't have enough info.
We don't.
So, to sum my feelings up, if we can get a project lead and they're successful in making the viability determination for the collection center, and it's to go forward with the collection center, that's one outcome. If the decision is, the research is that short-term and long-term, it's just not going to add up for the town, then we have to look at going to back to making a decision on curbside recycling or curbside recycling mixed with MSW. But we have, so those are decisions that we are facing. That's the net of it all. And the RFQ doesn't go out until that decision is made, that assessment is made. Sorry.
It's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. And I thank you very much for all your effort in laying out this problem. It's a big problem, and it's not gonna go away, and it's only gonna get bigger.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you take, I mean, just simple stuff, Mark has done a lot of research in terms of where landfill closures and so forth are gonna be impacting things like transportation of MSW out of the state. If you take a look at those longer term projected, the impact of those costs on us, they're not short. There's gonna be an impact.
Gets worse.
We're desperately trying to compensate for what the packaging experts out there with products are not doing their jobs.
And we have to deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
Well, to be continued, Chuck, but thank you so much. We'll call you again, I'm sure. For a resource, if nothing else. Any other questions from Chuck at this time, or Mark? No. Okay, well, that was public comment too. Anyone else have a public comment they'd like to make? Pam.
Pam Brown, 23 Sunshine Drive, Kingston. Well, first and foremost, Merry Christmas to all of you, and I want to say I appreciate all the time you put in for the town, the compensation, and all the hours you put in before the meetings, after the meetings, and during the meetings. Really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask generally, is there someone we should send questions about Community Power Coalition to? Should I send it to Mr. Koppelman or to Russman over here? Because we've had a series of questions we want to, get answers to eventually, and I'm not really sure where we should send our questions.
Would you mind being the point person, Glenn? To have, on behalf of the board?
To forward to the CPC reps.
Oh, to the C, okay.
I was thinking that the chair of that committee is probably the most appropriate place, but at your, whatever.
Are you the chair?
I am not. I'm the select board's rep.
Okay, who's the chair of the committee?
Mr. Russman.
We gotta keep him busy. I think directing him to Mr. Russman would be appropriate.
And since I'm the rep and Lori's the alternate to that committee, if the chair needs to get information to us, he has the point contact with this board.
And I did notice in, under cost sharing, it says that the program must be self-funded by participating customers, but then it notes that municipalities are only allowed to incur incidental costs, and membership in the coalition and implementation of the agreement will not require any upfront costs for the town other than incidental expenses, i.e. staff time, council review of agreements, and other costs required to comply with community power. So again, there is cost sharing, there are potential continuing obligations, and I'd like to have more details, more information about what kinds of costs those would be. It also says if we withdraw from the organization, that lost my page. That if there's an excess balance of funds available, that the funds would go to, I can find, oh, there it is. Upon termination, the balance of any funds accrued in the program's reserve fund would be available for distribution or application as directed by the select board. So I'm not clear on if there's an obligation, we have to pay for that. But if there's an excess reserve available, it goes to the select board for determination or distribution. What about those who opted in versus opted out? I'm concerned about where that money would go. Would it go into a town budget? So it's not simply an individualized program affecting the ratepayers. It's actually affecting the town as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Any other public comments at this time? Okay. We have.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Pedro, are you gonna be, this for non-public, or do you wanna speak now in public? It's up to you.
Which I can speak now.
This is, because he wants to address some things.
I know, but we only have a couple correspondence items that we can go into non-public.
He doesn't have to be non-public.
Oh, you don't have to be non-public? Okay, then come on down.
Yeah, just.
Absolutely.
So I will pass down a couple of items of concern, and I will. Good evening, members of the board, Chair. I'm handing down a couple of items of concern that were presented.
Thanks, Chuck. Mark.
To me as a code enforcement officer. Initially, I received a complaint for a noise issue at 26 Horn Road. Then I received other complaints with regards to the same matter. I went to the site. I spoke with an individual on the site. He told me he was not the manager of the site, but that he was going to relate the concerns to the manager. The concerns were with individuals operating at the pallet place on road on 26 Horn Road after hours, Monday to Monday, early in the morning, late at night. No people not being able to rest. I went there also today, and I spoke with an individual that pulled the I don't speak the language card, so I pulled my guess what card, and we were able to translate what we needed. Same comment that they don't relate. In between now and then, they put up a no trespassing sign and put cameras on site. I started to seek what are the alternatives that we have to address the matter. As of Friday this week, Thursday actually, Chief Graham Pellerin came and explained his concern that fire trucks are not able to access any structure that is on site, which makes that unsafe and life-threatening. As you see in the pictures that I pass around, you can see the amount of pallets that, and the height of them. We're talking about over 12 feet of height. Not only that, there is a lot of cardboard, and as I was coming out, I encountered a 5-gallon of gasoline bucket on the premises, which we don't want to add more fuel to that already. But in behind those pallets, there is a building. We don't know the conditions. We don't know what's going on there. So I also went this afternoon to the Rockingham District Court. I spoke with one of the judges and one of the clerks there, and they provided me with that template that I handed out. In the event that we do not get a response, we will seek administrative inspection warrant, which will allow me to come on site, probably with a police officer, go to the structure. At that point, we'll be seeking also to get all the inspector coming with me. And if it is needed, we will deem that the whole area unsafe. And at that point, we will need to pretty much close the area once we figure out what's going on. I spoke with also Glenn Greenwood with regards to what is the existing site plan and things of that nature. Well, the use preceded the planning board. Mr. Greenwood made allusion that he has seen those pallets since he started working in town in '87.
What does he do with those pallets?
That's a really good question.
I believe he brings them in, he rebuilds them, and then actually there's a market, they resell them. It's a manufacturing plant.
Got it. So there is no site plan, it's just a permitted use somehow granted by the town in that area that has been there forever. And, but that's where we are. We're gonna start sending a letter tomorrow, and depending on the result of the letter, this is gonna follow suit immediately. We cannot.
You're gonna send it certified, or you're gonna have a hand delivered?
Certify 100%, and probably also do a hand deliver one, two tiers of it, because we don't know what's really going on and who is in charge there, when they are available. I have noticed and witnessed 2 out-of-state vehicles there, Massachusetts plates, left my cards, again, no answer. They're 2 very distinctive vehicles. One was a Honda CR-V, and today it was a Toyota Tundra. No answer to none of my requests, and even talking with individuals that I talk on site.
Does someone live at the site?
Not possible to know. Again, even to get to the site, it's very precarious. Those pallets are very high, and they are covering the whole thing. There is a very narrow path to get to the back.
I'm kind of wondering what the tax card looks like.
That's a good question.
It might be an interesting view.
Yeah. So, but again,
What's the address number?
26. They have two their entrances to the site. One is labeled 26, and then there is one further down on the left if you're going eastbound on the road. So again, at this point, we need to address this as a time of the answers and make sure that we can get the message and get in and probably get into that property. The latest I foresee myself going in there beginning of the year.
So what you provided us tonight, the
It's gonna
administrative
be-
warrant, this is what you've applied for?
This is what I will be applying as of January to go in the premises and to dictate
If you
everything.
can't get in now,
Exactly, that's gonna follow suit.
This is not in place yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm giving notice to the board because also we'll need to be also communicating with town council and taking this matter probably to court afterwards, depending on what is the issue and what has to be done. But again, it is indeed a life and safety matter to my standpoint of view. I just don't know to what extent, and that's why we need this in place so that we can address it, and if the site has to be closed, then it is what it is, and we'll need to make sure that we have all the parameters in place.
Yeah. And I mean, if somebody is living there, I mean,
That would be
you
scary.
talk about health and safety issue, that's a real problem.
Yeah, that would be very scary. And again, I have spoken today with an individual in Spanish today that attests to them working in several shifts. So I don't know if it is even a rotation 24-hour shift. So either way is not a good view. And also that the neighbor has been already complaining about very early in the morning noise and late night noise all the way Monday through Sundays. So it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed. So
thank you and good luck.
very much needed. Merry Christmas, I guess.
Merry Christmas, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, we have a few things to sign. We are going to non-public, I believe. One is a request from our favorite town clerk, tax collector, in conjunction with our moderator, Ellen Faulkner. They'd like to request, in here is a facilities request form for the school to use the high school for voting in March. And it's went very well in November, plenty of parking, plenty of space, and I believe there's no school that day, the parent-teacher conference day again, so it should be no problem, but
I'll make that motion to authorize the chair to sign that facilities request form for us to use, for the town to use the high school for the March voting.
discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. There's a couple of notice of intent to cut forms for us to sign as well, and a number of appointments to public office, and it's for the watershed management plan. You've got 2 select board members, is that normal, usual? Is it a conflict? I don't know, and I'm just asking.
No,
Is this, who do they answer to?
us.
Then,
The watershed management plan
It's
committee?
a subcommittee of the, or it's a committee of the select board, because
they
we,
answer to us.
yeah, they
So
do.
that would be under the common law incompatibility. You can't do that. There's a law in 669:7 that actually dictates that. If there's a board that answers to us, one of our members can't be a part of it. There's a conflict of interest. I mean, how can you do that? We're being appointed to a position that answers to us. I think we need to look at that. It clearly states that you can't do that.
You could have a selectman as a liaison.
Not a liaison is different. This is an appointed
I
position.
understand. I'm just-
Yeah, no, I understand it. The liaison, when you put somebody in as a liaison, but I think it's an appointed position to a board that answers to us.
Well, let's check into that.
I'd like to look into that.
Yeah, we'll set those 2 aside.
Yeah, that's fine.
Aside the other ones, and then we'll revisit that accordingly.
That's fine.
Let's check that out, make sure that's the case.
Because if that's the case, we're going to have to go through our full committee list in town and,
Exactly.
and potentially make changes. So,
Any appointed.
yes,
Appointed,
yeah. Okay, well,
Right,
we'll,
we'll check that out.
we'll check that out.
Yep, sure. Approval of minutes, public and non-public from December 9th.
I also did put in December 11th, that little budget meeting. It's not a lot to it, but that's also in there for approval.
Okay, so December 9th and 11th. And a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
I,
Motion carries. And then we have a non-public again, 91A32. Yes?
someone should be making that motion.
Motion to go into executive session for, whatever the number is.
Well, what are you talking about?
Personnel, I believe.
Is it personnel? Is it
Dismissal,
legal?
promotion,
Is
or
it reputation?
compensation, hiring of any person, matters if discussed in public would affect adversely the reputation.
Well, then I guess
And I believe the adversely affecting reputation doesn't apply to select board members,
Anyone aside from a member of this board.
right? So we can't go into non-public, as I understand it, if it's only for protecting our own reputations.
Correct.
Isn't that interesting? So I don't know what the issue is, but if depending on what the issue is, then that's how we should
Do
proceed.
you want to look at these and pick one, or? I don't know what it's about either.
I thought we had a non-public session.
No, that's, I asked.
Oh, it was-
Pedro.
oh, it was
I'm
Pedro.
sorry, that was a miscommunication. I asked. if
Okay,
Pedro had to be
so we don't
non-public.
have, we don't have a non-public.
That's
We're
right.
gonna just continue it from Wednesday?
If you wanna do this, what's that falling?
Huh? I don't
What's it
know,
called?
you're the one that was bringing it up on Wednesday.
No, I guess I was cut short. When they walked in the door, it was all over and done with. So, I mean, I basically said what I had to say. If you wanna talk about it tomorrow, you can go back to non-public.
Well, no, I think it was only if, frankly, I wasn't sure if, we were cut off, and I didn't know if you had
No, I think.
more to go through.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
non-public?
No, no public.
Then I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Yay.
Be nice, Laurie. Merry Christmas, everybody.
the ice cream store.
What the hell was that?